The Yorkshire Wolds are low hills in the counties of East Riding of Yorkshire and North Yorkshire, in northeastern England. The name also applies to the district in which the hills lie. On the western edge the Wolds rise to an escarpment which then drops sharply to the Vale of York. The highest point on the escarpment is Bishop Wilton Wold, also known as Garrowby Hill, which is 807 feet. 246 meters above sea level. To the north, on the other side of the Vale of Pickering, lie the North York moors, and to the east the hills flatten into the plain of Holderness. The largest town in the Wolds is Driffield, with other places including Pocklington, Thixendale and Kilham, the original capital of the Wolds. The highest village on the Yorkshire Wolds is Fridaythorpe at 550 feet, 170 meters above sea level. Geology and natural history. The hills are formed from chalk, and make an arc from the Humber estuary west of Hull up to the North Sea coast between Bridlington and Scarborough. Here they rise up to form cliffs, most notably at Flamborough, Bempton Cliffs and Filey. Flamborough Headland is designated a heritage coast. On the other side of the Humber, the chalk formations continue as the Lincolnshire Wolds. In fact, one can view the Humber as cutting through a single formation. See also Humber Gap. The Humber Bridge was built at the point due to its geological stability. Most of the area takes the form of an elevated, gently rolling plateau, cut by numerous deep, steep-sided, flat-bottomed valleys of glacial origin. The chalk formation of the hills provides exceptionally good drainage, with the result that most of these valleys are dry. Indeed, surface water is quite scarce throughout the Wolds. Typically the valleys are hard to see from above, creating the visual impression that the landscape is much flatter than is actually the case. The unusual topography results in an upside-down farming system. Livestock, mostly sheep and cows, graze the valleys, with the hills above used for crops. Climate. Located in the northern part of the UK, the Yorkshire Wolds have a temperate maritime climate which is dominated by the passage of mid-latitude depressions. The weather is very changeable from day to day, and the warming influence of the Gulf Stream makes the region mild for its latitude. The higher ground of the Wolds results in there being slightly cooler than the surrounding lowland areas, and drifting snow is a problem in winter. The average total annual rainfall is 28.7 inches, 729 millimeters, with rain falling on 128 days of the year. January is usually the coldest month and December the wettest. The warmest month is August and the driest is February. Areas and notable settlements. Northern Wolds and Flamborough Head. The Wolds reach the sea at Flamborough Head, where the chalk cliffs plunge over 430 feet, 130 meters, to the North Sea. To the south of Flamborough lies the resort town of Bridlington, and to the north the sheer cliffs at Speeton overlook Filey Bay. Inland the high Wold Scarp overlooks the Vale of Pickering. The so-called Great Wold Valley traverses the area. It is occupied by a small brook called the Gypsy Race. This brook empties its waters into Bridlington Harbour. The valley of the Gypsy Race turns south and then east in two right-angle bends, one at Burton Fleming, the other at Rudston. In dry conditions the brook frequently dries up in parts of its course and re-emerges downstream. Another notable feature of this area of the Wolds is Danes Dyke, a great ditch extending across Flamborough Head. The dyke consists of double ramparts. A ditch which is about 20 yards, 18 meters, wide and 20 feet, 6.1 meter, deep, and a further rampart which rises to 18 feet, 5.5 meters, above ground level. The origin of this feature is obscure, although it is certainly not Danish. Bempton Cliffs is a seabird colony and an R.S. P.B. Nature Reserve. Notable settlements include Flamborough Village, North Landing and South Landing on Flamborough Headland. The village of Rayton, which extends down the steep scarp face of the Wolds, has many buildings made of the local chalk. Hunmanby was once a large market town, and its buildings are centred on the old triangular market place. A series of villages lies at the foot of the northern scarp of the Wolds, each having a parish, which contains an area of chalk hillside, fertile benches and marshy land on the Vale of Pickering. Fordon is one of the smallest villages in England, consisting of only a few farms and a small church, some parts of which are of Norman construction. Where Old Newton and Burton Fleming lie in the Great Wold Valley. A large round barrow called Willie Howe, a topographic name from Middle English, originated with the Old Norse word hor, meaning a small hill or a man-made mound. A barrow lies between Wold Newton and Thwing. At Rudston, Britain's tallest standing stone can be seen in the churchyard. Boynton Hall was the home of William Strickland, who is reputed to have brought turkey to England. On the Wold top there are many traces of prehistoric peoples, such as the barrows at Willoughby Wold and Sharp House above Folkestone, Driffield area. On the seaward dipslope of the Wolds there is a series of villages extending from Bridlington to Driffield. These mark the spring line and the natural boundary between the chalk Wolds and the clay of Holderness. Driffield lies central to the crescentic shape of the Wolds area, and since all of the Wolds are within easy reach, it has become an important market town and is known as the capital of the Wolds. Villages of note include Nafferton, which lies just off the A166 road and boasts a pretty mill pond fed by springs. Wansford, to the south, lies on the Driffield Canal, and it has a church built by Sir Tatton Sykes in 1868. Close to Ruston Parva is Danes Graves, an archaeological site consisting of some 500 small round barrows marking Iron Age burials, at least one of which yielded a corpse buried with a chariot and harness. Burton Agnes boasts the ruins of a manor house dating from 1170 AD and a fine hall and gatehouse of the Elizabethan period. Kilham was a prosperous market town in the medieval period, but was replaced by Driffield in the 19th century as the capital of the Wolds. In this area there is a long continuity of settlement with an Iron Age cemetery, the Roman road now known as Woldgate, and an Anglian cemetery, all in close proximity. Sledmere village has a uniformity of aspect which reveals its history as an estate village. Close by is Sledmere House, the home of the Sykes family since the 18th century. Southern Wolds. In the south the Wolds are at their narrowest. Here they lie between the plain of Holderness to the east and the Vale of York to the west. The Humber estuary cuts through the chalk formation, leaving the Yorkshire Wolds to the north and the Lincolnshire Wolds to the south. In Roman times the estuary was crossed by a ford. The Humber Bridge now spans the estuary. This area has fine agricultural land and many attractive villages, notable amongst which are Walkington, with its village pond and church of All Hallows; Bishop Burton, which lies in a green hollow and has 19th-century whitewashed cottages close to a village green with a large pond; Cherry Burton sits in a shallow valley in the shadow of the beautiful St. Michael's and All Angels Church; Skidby, which has an intact working windmill dating from 1821, which is now an agricultural museum. North Newbold is sited in a narrow valley on the western scarp of the Wolds and has a famous cruciform Norman church dedicated to St. Nicholas. Central Wolds. The western scarp of the Wolds reaches its highest point at Garrowby Hill. It is well dissected and attractive wooded dales occur along the scarp with small becks flowing down to the Vale of York below. The market towns of Pocklington and Market Wheaton are sited between the Wolds and the Vale. Large parks and houses lie along the scarp from Garrowby Hall to Kilham, Percy Water Priory and Lunsborough Hall. Millington has a beautiful situation within Millington Dale, and the road leading along the brow of the dale is particularly scenic. The village of Kiplingcoats is the location for the annual Kiplingcoats Derby horse race, said to be the oldest horse race in England. The 490th event took place on the 19th of March 2009. Western Wolds. From Garrowby Hill northwards to Ganton, the high scarp of the Wolds swings in a crescent to overlook the Vales of York and Pickering. Villages tend to be clustered along the scarp foot or in the upper part of the Great Wold Valley. Rillington is an attractive village with a stream passing through and a nearby park at Scampston. At Knapton Village there is a hall and park, and above the village in Knapton Plantation is Staple Howe, an Iron Age site. The twin villages of East and West Heslington lie further along the A64 road. West Heslington is a well-known archaeological site, with artifacts from several eras having been recovered. Wareham Percy is one of the most notable deserted village sites in the UK. History and archaeology. The Wolds area is rich in archaeological remains. There is a profusion of Neolithic, Bronze Age and Romano-British sites extending across the entire Yorkshire Wolds area. The availability of fertile chalk soils, good grazing and the light tree cover along with stones suitable for making tools made this area attractive to early Neolithic settlers, along with Wessex and Orkney. The Yorkshire Wolds is a key area for studying the development of the Neolithic period in the British Isles, as it became a major focus for settlement in this era. Isolated farms rather than settlements of any size appear to have been the normal dwelling types. However, few have been located with any certainty, and most evidence is of funerary sites and ritual monuments. Recently excavated long barrows at Ford and on Willoughby Wold and at Kilham have been carbon dated to around 3700 BC. A well-known round barrow of this period is the monumental Garrowby Howe, at the western end of the Great Wolds Valley, partially excavated in 1890 by J. R. Mortimer. A henge monument of the Neolithic has been identified at Maiden's Grave, Rudston, and the Rudston monolith has also been assigned to this period. An extensive Neolithic ritual complex, the main elements of which are 4 large Cursus monuments and a henge, is situated near the eastern end of the Great Wold Valley. More than 1,400 Bronze Age round barrows, comprising 1 or more burials and accompanied by items of grave goods, are known to exist on the Yorkshire Wolds. They occur either in isolation or, more commonly, grouped together to form cemeteries. Many of these sites, although they have been reduced in size by repeated ploughing, still form upstanding and, in some cases, prominent features in the present-day landscape. The Romans arrived in this area around 71 AD. From a base at Brough on the north bank of the Humber, they established a road network with one branch towards York and another to Malton, both crossing the Wolds area. The settlements of the native Parisi were little disturbed by the Roman occupiers at first, but in later years they became Romanized, adopting the Roman material culture. There are villa sites on the Wolds at Rudston, Harpham, Brantingham, Welton and Wareham Street. Walkington Wold, near the village of Walkington in the southern area of the Wolds, is the site of an Anglo-Saxon execution cemetery, the only known example from northern England. Culture and media. The writer Winifred Holtby, who was born at Rudston, lived in the area and described the Wolds as fold upon fold of the encircling hills, piled rich and golden. Quote, "The Yorkshire Wolds were a subject of 2 BBC Inside Out Yorkshire and Lincolnshire. Programmes on the 2nd of February 2007 and the 13th of February 2017. The Yorkshire Wolds Versatile Brass entertains local communities in local venues in the Yorkshire Wolds region. David Hockney has featured the Yorkshire Wolds in many of his paintings that were shown at the Royal Academy in the exhibition, A Bigger Picture, in the spring of 2012. Yorkshire Wolds Way, a two-part BBC television documentary, first broadcast in January 2017, features a journey along the Yorkshire Wolds Way. Wolds Way, one of 9 national trails in England. The Yorkshire Wolds Way is a long-distance footpath which runs the length of the Wolds from the Humber Bridge at Hesel to Filey on the coast. It is managed by the Countryside Commission. See also: Chalk Stream, the Weald, Yorkshire Dales, Yorkshire Wolds, the villages of the Yorkshire Wolds. http://www.countryside.gov. UK, CCI, Yorkshire Humber, 027. HTM. The Countryside Agency, Countryside Character Initiative, Yorkshire and the Humber, Yorkshire Wolds. The Wolds Archaeological Research Project. Further reading: Walking the Wolds Way. David Clenzie. 2007. ISBN 9781-4303-1019-8.